Hey guys, my name's Nick and welcome back to the channel, and in this video we are looking at the Feculent Gnarlmaw. And this is the terrain piece for Nurgle Daemons, and it's pretty impressive, to be honest. Let's have a look at the rules first before we go into the build. Now the Feculent Gnarlmaw is just 50 points and a power level of 3, which is rather cheap for its abilities. So and it comes in as a fortification slot, which is probably one of the first times where we've had Imperial bastions and so on that have formed those kinds of bits of terrain, and a couple of bits for Tau with the shield walls and so on. This is the first time really we've had some rules for Chaos, and specifically Chaos Demons, and even more specifically Nurgle Daemons. It comes with Pestilent Garden, which means after it's set up it's treated as a terrain feature, so it can't move, can't be targeted, or can't be attacked, so it's a pretty static piece of terrain, but offers a whole load of buffs to nearby Nurgle Demon units. So the first one of those is Shroud of Friars, and that affects all Nurgle Demon units except vehicles and monsters. Anything that's completely within 7 inches, 7's the magic number of Nurgle, of any Feculent Gnarlmaw receive the benefit of cover, but you get 2 to the saving throw instead of 1. So you haven't got to be behind it, you haven't got to be away from line of sight or anything like that. You've just got to be within 7 inches of it, and quite a few units can benefit from it. Obviously invulnerable saves aren't impacted by that, it just affects your regular armor save. Also comes with Sickness Blossoms, and that's at the start of your turn. Roll a d6 for every unit within just 3 inches of the Feculent Gnarlmaw, and on a 4+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound, but on a 6 it suffers d3 mortal wounds. So basically this magical tree that's infested with the plague is going to affect everybody that comes anywhere near it. But it doesn't affect Nurgle units, so they're already rotten, aren't they? So they're not going to get impacted by anything from that. So it's a really good defensive unit here. Also comes with the Plague Bell's Chime. So a Nurgle Demon unit within 7, 7 being the magic number again, of any Feculent Gnarlmaw at the start of their turn can shoot and or charge this turn, even if they fell back or advanced. So all you've got to do is start within that 7 inches, and then you get that advantage, which is quite effective. And finally, Conduit to Nurgle's Domain, which means you can re-roll any of the dice used for summoning rolls when a Chaos character from your army within 7 inches, always got to love the 7, of any Feculent Gnarlmaw attempts to summon a unit of Nurgle Demons to the battlefield using a ritual. So 50 points, 3 power level, all of those abilities. This is the perfect thing for sticking on a home objective and sticking it up with Plague Bearers or Nurglings or anything like that you can sit there and it's going to be really tough for the enemy to come and take. Because even if they get really close, it's going to defend itself and start attacking you with mortal wounds. So for 50 points, I think this is a pretty good winner. You can take between 1 and 3 units, all got to be fairly close to each other when they're deployed. In fact, they've all got to be within 6 inches of each other, so you can set up a whole forest of these as a really strong defensive line, but in my opinion I think 1 is going to be pretty effective. Comes with faction keywords of Chaos, Nurgle and Demon, and a keyword of just Feculent Gnarlmaw. So yeah, I'm quite impressed with that set of rules for just that low power and those low points. They're going to be really good for holding home defensive objectives. Now you could be really really sneaky and try and put that forwards a bit more, but in my opinion it's a very defensive thing to hold those home bases. But let's crack into the video and put it together. So here we go then. This is the box that it comes in, and this is what it vaguely looks like. As you can see, the light is reflecting off of the cellophane, so let's get the cellophane off so we can actually see the box a little bit clearer. And that's a little bit better. So let's open the lid and see what we get inside. Now we get the usual set of instructions. Apologies for the light, it does reflect off of white quite harshly. But it's a vaguely straightforward set of instructions. I'm trying to just get that camera light a bit better so you can see what's going on. You can see that it's covered in bells and twigs and so on. And these are the important parts. So let's have a look at the sprues. So we get 2 sprues, we get a large base piece, and then we get all the detail that builds up. And yeah, it looks fairly straightforward to me. Let's have a closer look. Then we can see like that big pit of maggots that all form into the root of the tree, which is quite a nice little bit of detail. We always love a bit of maggots when it comes to Nurgle. As with all my videos, I don't assume that you've seen any of my content before, so I do tend to start off with how I remove bits from the sprue and how I glue it together and so on, just in case this is the first time you found my channel. But I do fast forward it and I don't go through the entire sprues of putting it together, because that would be teaching you to suck eggs. So this is where we go. So the first piece in then is some nice little teeth that form the entrance to that big pit of maggots. And as you can see, what I did was, you know, with the cutting out and so on, is I just use a regular pair of side cutters, clean it all up with a nice scalpel blade, and then always test fit every single piece that you can. Everything that's really, really not necessarily obvious. So as you can see there, I did test fit those little teeth, and then we move on to doing the trunk. I've already cut those out to save you watching that bit of boredom. And then just test fitting to make sure that everything goes together, everything's been cleaned up nice, and it all fits perfectly well. Run a nice little bead of plastic glue around the outside and push the two halves together. Now plastic glue sets pretty quick. You can just normally sort of hold it for a few seconds and it takes hold as it begins to melt the two surfaces together. But just pressing it together, making sure that you get a good bond between the two halves of this tree. Now that tree section does sit on the base, obviously, and there's a nice little seam area where this glues to the rest of the model, and you can just about make that out. And there's a couple of little parts where the branches reach down into the floor as well. So just putting a little dollop of glue in there to make sure that those end pieces sit. And obviously, once again, just test fitting it before I put it into place, and then just holding it down and letting it set, and then just putting it to one side just for sort of 20 or 30 seconds just to let that glue go off. Now getting into some of the more interesting bits of detail. Now this is covered in branches and bells and tentacle things and so on, but there's a couple of bits we need to do before that, and that's these sort of half semicircle cups, and these form the front of the model so that you can attach these weird looking maggot ridden looking eyes that sort of stare directly towards you. And that sort of forms the triangle of three circles, which is the main iconography of Nurgle. Really, is that three circles that are facing you. So the three semicircles form those cups, and then we have all these little tentacle pieces that fit into various slots around the model. The first one goes on the top, nice and easy, so just making sure that I know where that's going to sit so I can apply the glue. Then once that top one's on, we have three more of those tentacles. There's one that goes on the right hand side here, one that goes on the left, and one that actually goes on the back as well. And these are all sort of the bits that spit out all the poisons and all the toxins that are in effect in the rules are going to start causing those mortal wounds to non-Nurgle demons that come towards it. So once those cup pieces are done, it's time to stick on the three eye pieces, or the maggot-ridden eyes that form the sort of main central focus of the model, really, as you look at it from the front on. It's the traditional Nurgle icon of three circles in that triangle. Just making sure I'm happy with the orientation. It is covered in some spikes and other bits of detail, and you can see that the left and right lower ones are kind of keyed, so there's more spikies out of the right hand side of the right one and more spiky bits out of the left hand side of the left one, which makes total sense when it comes to looking at it. So as we go through and stick those on, you can see there that the left spikes stick out more and the right spikes stick out more on that side. Now at this point my camera begins to fail, as I think I either filled up my memory card or something didn't quite happen with the file transfer, and I've actually lost the footage of the branches and the bells. So we actually skim forward now, unfortunately, to the final piece, and you can see the model in all its glory here with the bells and those branches attached. Very straightforward to put on. Some of the larger bells are two parts, the branches are all in two parts, sort of a left and right half, and they all just stick in the remaining sockets on the model. Now before I wrap this video up, there are a couple of things that I want to add about the Shroud of Friars ability. Now this is the one that affects all Nurgle demon units and gives +2 to their saving throw. So if we grab our Codex, Chaos Codex, we end up with 2 units in here that has that ability, and that is Obliterators and Warp Talons, both of which have Chaos mark of Chaos, which would be Nurgle in this case, and the Demon rule, so they would get +2 to their cover save. Obliterators already have a 2+ save, effectively putting them on a 0+ save. Now we know that ones always fail, but in effect this is really going to affect rending weapons, especially like Plasma, that have a -2 to their AP. The second ability I want to talk about then is the Plague Bell's Chime, which again affects Nurgle Demon units, which allows them to shoot and or charge in that turn, even if they fell back or advanced. Now this doesn't preclude vehicles, so if we grab our Death Guard Codex, we now look at the Plague Burst Crawler and the Defiler, both of which have the Nurgle and Demon keyword, which means that this ability will impact those two units. Now that could be potentially exceptionally powerful, and I think we're going to find out how powerful at the Las Vegas Open that comes up this weekend, where there's potential lists which have these Gnarlmaws and an awful lot of Plague Burst Crawlers being fitted in. So there we go then guys, that is the Feculent Gnarlmaw all built, unboxed and reviewed. As I said at the opening section of here, the rules for this model are quite good for just 50 points. For that key point of holding your home objectives and so on, which is normally quite important, and there's so many ways that enemy models can infiltrate your home deployment zone, try and steal objectives that they need to get for the mission and the game rules to try and get a victory over you. Now if you can pad out your defensive zone with these particular models, and then with some troops choices like a big blob of any kind of Nurgle Demon really, Plague Bearers being pretty good, but if you want to go super cheap and put some Nurgling bases in there with a really cool invulnerable save on top of that cover save as well, they're going to be quite hard to shift, and that 50 points I think is going to go well spent in your army when it comes to those objectives. So hope you enjoyed the video, hope you learned something new. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to the channel, it'd be much appreciated. But until then, I shall catch you guys on the next video.